front lines protecting victims, giving safe shelter, and working in rehabilitation programs for survivors. She now resides in Tirana, Albania. She has been there for 9 years already. Sister Imelda, you have the floor.
Good evening, or good afternoon, I should say, to all of you. And it is such a privilege to be here. And I thank all of you who were responsible for organising this day and for giving me the amazing privilege to speak with you today. Renate, religious in Europe and co-workers in Europe with religious working against trafficking and exploitation, are in union with the UN in their Sustainable Development Goals. We support and we work with those goals, and especially in the eradication of violence and exploitation against women and children, and in the goal which aims to eradicate all aspects, all possible actions of trafficking in human persons in our world today. If you look at this picture, in 1863, imagine the world then celebrating during that period of time the abolition of slavery. Imagine they looking at our world today. How horrified and shocked they would be to see that today, in our 21st century, we have the highest, most clandestine, criminal, lucrative, multi-billion-dollar industry, business in the trade of human persons. Imagine today we live with that, as Pope Francis said, that wound in the side of our world today. Just look at the map. Where is the trafficking taking place? Notice, north to south, east to west. Who gets the profits? It's almost like the opposite, isn't it? The West is getting the profits, the South. Is that why trafficking is booming? Who is profiting? Who is leading the way? Who is secretly leading the way? One of our members, Sister Patricia Mulhall of Bregedine, she talks of, we have the demand today for cheap labour, cheap goods, cheap services. But who counts the cost? What is the price? Look at the race of who is trafficked. Donna, thank you for speaking on behalf of so many millions of black people who have been trafficked on the back of incomes higher than we could imagine. Look at the amount, the numbers. Look at the statements. A Nigerian sister in Italy, one of our members, working on the streets at night to rescue and protect the victims, many Nigerians, but many East European, many from vulnerable communities. The profits from sex slavery alone, 10 billion at least, but probably a lot more. Labour trafficking, this is a picture of our Roma camps, many even born into slavery on the streets, used for labour for nothing, no income, very, very little support, conditions, food. This is the reality that we have to face and do something about. One of our victims, not hardly surviving, in Lithuania. She was trafficked by her brother. She, every night, had to perform as a sex puppet to man after man after man. She wept in this interview in our film that has just been launched called to Give Voice to the Voiceless. That's what we're called to do as Renate, called to give voice to the voiceless. She wept when she spoke of herself as being thought as not important enough person by the police to even write down her denunciation. Not important enough. We're going to think out to mission, we're going to think big and wide, and we're going to think of the traffic victim and what we can really do working together right across Europe. I do believe that, yes.
We are demanding cheap goods, cheap clothes, cheap services. But who's paying the price for these?
They migrated because of the poverty after the communism regime fall, and they went abroad to find a better life.
The women, I mean, generally, they don't fight. They are okay, they are obedient, and they are sad, but they don't give trouble.
Every Wednesday we go out to meet our friends. We call them amici della strada, our friends on the roads.
Perché queste ragazze vengono, come dire, irretite nel loro paese perché scappano da situazioni di miseria, di povertà.
Probably been threatened, and their families are generally threatened as well back in Vietnam. So there is a controlling issue.
Our vision and our idea is to expand it. It is also a chance for other women to be employed, because this is our aim and this is our goal, to support the women in need.
Sisters from different congregations, different nationalities, having the same aim, the same vision, helping these young people.
So Renate is in 24 European countries. We work across border, globally, because it's right across the world that men, women, boys and girls are being trafficked across porous borders. We have networks of religious in every continent in the world, and we all come together under the umbrella of Talitha Cum in Rome. And this is important to us, that we know that together we are strong. Together we can actually create some kind of action for good. Our strength is the network. Our vision and our passion comes from love. It comes from justice, freedom, and truth. Not from competition, greed, or power. So what do we do? How do we do it? You saw in the film some of the impacts, some of the ways of our walking with those who are surviving or are victims of trafficking. We use modern technology. We use the website. We use Facebook. We use campaigning. We use walking the walk on the streets with those who are suffering from the abuse of traffickers. We have shelters in all our countries where we are working for the rehabilitation, for hope and new life of victims. We work in prevention, this is very important, on the peripheries, in the villages, in the countryside, where poverty is great. We've set up for economic and human independence and empowerment many, many micro businesses in agriculture, crafts, in service industry, tailoring, food, and so on. Across border, we sell the products, thanks to our incredible network and open doors. Here we are at the UN, and what a privilege it is for me. And I want to conclude with just saying to you what we as Renate invite you to really address for us working in the coalface. We want you to really look at demand for the sex industry, demand for cheap labour, and look at the law. Is it clear? Are the victims being released or are they made criminals? We'd like you, secondly, to look at the whole world of corruption. In many, many of these countries where trafficked victims are being trafficked, it's in countries where there is very high corruption and little implementation of the law. And finally, we'd like to ask those in the world that the UN know who are high-key specialists in IT, in technology, in computer technology, to really, really start beginning to address the problem of internet trafficking and the problems of criminal behavior on the deep net. It's not good enough that there is so little being addressed in our today's world in this field. I thank you for this opportunity, and I'm very, very pleased to have been here and to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Imelda, for representing, in a sense, all the sisters of Renate and those who are not members of Renate who are doing this same work from 24 European countries who with you are courageously giving your lives to help save the lives of those who are being trafficked and enslaved. I think it's also a good occasion for us to pray for more vocations to religious life. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. James Cocaine, who is the head of office here in New York of the United Nations University. He's the author of a challenging study published 4 months ago entitled Unshackling Development, Why We Need a Global Partnership